Texas is kicking our ass in green energy. The average time to get solar panels connected there is 3 to 4 months. About 1,000 days faster than it took me. Remember when I was trying to get my solar hooked up? It would have been quicker to build a windmill. So Texas has passed California in solar and blows away California when it comes to wind and energy storage. How does a state with no pro-climate policies produce better climate results than a state where here, even though we have so much better stickers on our bumper stickers on our Priuses, you know what I'm saying.
Bill Maher's home state continues to struggle despite his ongoing criticism of its leadership. Yet he shows no sign of backing down. California, once considered the pride of the nation, is now described by critics as a state weakened by years of poor governance. In his latest appearance, Maher delivered a fierce attack on state leaders, and his remarks were unusually harsh and unrestrained. The discussion was intense, provocative, and clearly meant to spark debate, prompting viewers to engage further.
Democrat who's running for governor here in California now, who's saying it, San Jose Mayor Maher. Yeah, because he's at 4% in the polls. Everybody has been calling me lately saying, you gotta have this guy on. He's the sensible Democrat we've been looking for. To which I tell them, 1, this is a national show. It's not all about you and your life in California. 2, how did you get this number? And 3, what's his plan to get the leaf blowers to shut the fuck up in the morning? But also, you're right, he does sound sensible. Because he's at 4%. That's when everybody's brave. If he got to 40%, would he still be saying, as he does say, we need Democratic leaders in California who are willing to say no to their friends?
Maher makes a pointed observation that some Democrats only find confidence when they have little political risk left. He highlights figures like Maher as examples of politicians who suddenly become outspoken about California's problems. While this may appear courageous on the surface, Maher argues it is driven more by circumstance than principle. With extremely low polling numbers, he suggests such politicians have little to lose by speaking openly. According to him, real conviction would be reflected in consistent criticism even when political standing is strong.
That would be the unions, the bureaucrats, the lawyers, the consultants, the regulators, and all the special interest friends who make living in this state such a frustrating, maddening experience. It's why the railroads don't get built, the potholes don't get filled, the homeless don't get housed, the kids don't learn.
According to Maher, California is not just struggling, but being slowed down by an overwhelming bureaucratic system. He argues that regulations have become so complicated that even basic public works projects face unnecessary delays. Something as simple as repairing a pothole can involve layers of permits, approvals, and administrative steps that significantly increase cost and time. As a result, progress stalls while bureaucracy expands. Maher believes this reflects a deeper issue where the system exists more to sustain itself than to serve the public efficiently.
A black 4th grader in Mississippi is 2.5 times as likely to be proficient in math and reading as one in California. Mississippi is kicking our ass in education, and for way less money. We're 37th in 4th grade reading, they're 9th.
California's education system is also facing long-standing challenges despite continuous increases in funding. Over the past decade, spending per student has risen significantly, yet academic performance has not improved in a meaningful way. Critics argue that resources are not translating into results. At the same time, debates over fundamental issues, such as reading instruction, remain unresolved for years. While policymakers continue discussions, students are left behind. Maher's point is that the system is failing to prioritize effective solutions over prolonged internal disagreements.
Is kicking our ass in green energy. The average time to get solar panels connected there is 3 to 4 months. About 1,000 days faster than it took me. Remember when I was trying to get my solar hooked up? It would have been quicker to build a windmill.
Maher also points out an unexpected comparison between California and Texas in the area of green energy. Despite California's strong environmental reputation and extensive regulations, Texas has reportedly made faster progress in energy development. According to critics, California's heavy regulatory structure has slowed implementation and increased costs. Meanwhile, Texas has advanced with fewer restrictions and faster execution. Maher argues this contrast highlights how excessive regulation can undermine even well-intentioned policies, turning ambitious goals into slow-moving processes.
So Texas has passed California in solar and blows away California when it comes to wind and energy storage. How does a state with no pro-climate policies produce better climate results than a state where here, even though we have so much better stickers on our bumper Prius, bumper stickers on our Priuses, you know what I'm saying.
Maher also points out an unexpected comparison between California and Texas in the area of green energy. Despite California's strong environmental reputation and extensive regulations, Texas has reportedly made faster progress in energy development. According to critics, California's heavy regulatory structure has slowed implementation and increased costs. Meanwhile, Texas has advanced with fewer restrictions and faster execution. Maher argues this contrast highlights how excessive regulation can undermine even well-intentioned policies, turning ambitious goals into slow-moving.
Why? Because you're allowed to build there. Because every third person in Texas isn't someone whose job it is to make sure nothing gets done. Democrats, these are your issues. Education, race, the environment, and I say this with love. You're losing to the Waffle House car on the lawns.
Maher and similar critics argue that responsibility for California's decline largely falls on long-term Democratic leadership in the state. With decades of political dominance, the party is held accountable for both successes and failures in governance. While Democrats often emphasize priorities such as education, environmental protection, and social equity, critics claim that outcomes in these areas have not matched expectations. Comparisons with states like Texas and Mississippi are frequently used to highlight perceived shortcomings. The argument suggests that even key policy areas have not produced the intended results, raising questions about overall effectiveness.
Theos ran a story on how getting the water out of the hydrants in Pacific Palisades was more complicated than it seems. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's very complicated. That's why I pay 13% of my income in this state every year to people who I assumed were working on things like this. When asked why so many of the hydrants in the Palisades ran out of water, Governor Newsom said the local folks are trying to figure that out. Yeah, you got to do that before the fire.
California's wildfire crisis remains one of its most persistent challenges, but critics argue the issue is not solely due to lack of resources. The state possesses significant firefighting capabilities, including equipment, personnel, and aerial support. However, problems arise in coordination and preparedness, where infrastructure is not always fully functional when needed. In some cases, essential systems such as hydrants are not properly maintained or operational. This creates a gap between available resources and real-world effectiveness. Maher's broader point is that without strong leadership and efficient management, even substantial investment cannot prevent recurring failures.